Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to...
Americans invented a new Christianity. Here's why that's terrifying.
Donald Trump is the most Christian president in American history.
What channel is
Where
this?
we
I don't know
begin?
this
Because both
channel.
Wisecrack.
times that he was elected, evangelical Christians were one of his most influential and supportive voting blocs. And he hasn't been shy about courting Christians.
God spared my life for a reason.
To a large extent, he's delivered on the promises that he made to his evangelical base. He helped end Roe. He let religious
Honestly,
organizations.
I feel like when you're close to death, that kind of does something to you. You got to think, okay, I have a purpose in life. Naturally, I would feel that way. If you're
Honestly,
close to near death.
I don't even believe he's that religious. I think he just knows that he just uses religion to control those people and get those votes.
So do you think if you were close to near death, you're not going to feel like, oh my God, like, oh my
I
God?
don't know. It's hard for me to make that assumption.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say honestly. I don't know.
Because I don't remember him
I
doing
don't
that
know.
his first term. Did he like lean
But
heavily on religion
He
like that?
did. He really,
Like-
really leaned on religious policies.
Avoid the Affordable Care Act's contraception.
I just don't I don't believe he's like that religious. The whole Stormy Daniels thing, like,
Oh,
come
yeah.
on, just stop it.
mean-
Stop.
You could be a hypocrite.
Well, he is one for sure.
Requirements. And of course, he's systematically wiping out any mention of trans folks, a favorite cudgel of many evangelicals. And to top it off, he signed an executive order declaring an end to anti-Christian bias. Because of course, when you think of the most persecuted religious group in the US, evangelical Christians really leap to mind. Now, Trump and Christianity have always seemed like an odd partnership.
Old Testament guy or New Testament guy?
Probably equal.
Jesus constantly talked about loving your enemies, supporting the least of these, and
Because
living
you
in a way
don't know
filled with
nothing.
love.
Sell all your belongings and give the money to the poor.
Mr. Trump, well, his hobby of extramarital affairs and shady business deals doesn't exactly scream Christian values.
Is she your wife? You know what? I would say she's a beautiful woman, but if I did say that, my political career, you're not allowed to say that.
You know, the very mention of things like love and mercy seem to make him squirm.
They may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
So how has he become a hero, even a leader for American Christians? Well, there's two people who can help us
don't
explain the
know.
rise of Trump and
Please
Christianity. One is
do.
Friedrich Nietzsche. The other is Paula White.
The longer the dance, the
Oh.
more bees she gets aroused. So Queen Bee starts going into this
I
frenzy.
remember
What
her.
is this?
More fun than a
What the
barrel of monkeys.
the
Okay,
fuck
let's
are we
start by
watching?
clarifying which brand of Christians have anointed Trump as the second coming. Now, some of his most vocal supporters have been Christian nationalists, and specifically white Christian nationalists. And it's easy to listen to the news and feel like these white Christian nationalists are some shadowy conspiratorial society threatening our democracy's very existence. Well, you wouldn't be totally wrong to think that, but Christian nationalism itself is a sort of debatable moniker. Researchers tend to disagree about what Christian nationalism even is or the degree to which it functions as a coherent ideology. In fact, a report published by the Pew Research Foundation in January wrote that there is no universally accepted definition of religious nationalism, which makes it hard to have a clear definition of what makes someone a Christian nationalist. But they elaborate that in order to be defined as a Christian nationalist, you would have to agree with 4 principles. The first is that being a Christian is very important to being truly American. And it is very important that the US president share their beliefs, and the Bible should have at least some influence over US laws, and when the Bible
I
conflicts with the
wonder
will of
if we had a president who's not Christian.
I don't know. I have to go through the history books to look at the religions. I have no
I'm trying to
idea.
think off the top of my head. I don't know. I don't think we have. Maybe.
It's Protestant Christians too, or no?
I think it's like a subset, but I don't know if they would
Okay.
say it's a subset.
I don't know.
the people, the Bible should have more influence. Pew found that by these measures, just 6% of US adults consider themselves Christian nationalists. And we can take this in 2 ways, right? Either, so maybe there aren't actually many Christian nationalists, or maybe a lot of folks practicing a type of faith that's in line with nationalism, even if they're not consciously aware of it.
We take our authority over this election. Jesus is Lord.
And while there's a lot to unpack in that list, nothing here is all that different than what the old moral majority or Christian right has stood for decades, back when Billy Graham was praying on the White House lawn. Now, evangelical Christians have preferred candidates that reflect biblical values, like an emphasis on family values, opposition to abortion and gay rights, and support for prayer in schools. So if Christians say the Bible is so important to them, then why did they help elect a guy who's more interested in it as a prop rather than as a sacred text?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
In the 1960s, sociologist Robert Bella argued that much of the way Americans talk about their country echoes the way Christians talk about their faith, and he deems this worldview a civil religion. Now, America doesn't have an official religion technically, but civil religion is infused with vibes and rituals of Christianity. So in this civil religion, we get sacred text like the Declaration of Independence, sacred symbols like the American flag, and of course we get sacred leaders like Abraham Lincoln and the founding fathers. But
Hombres gay y enanitos verdes presentan Huevos Revueltos.
There's also a conception of America as the promised land, the establishment of a new social order that shall be a light unto all nations.
God spared my life for a reason, and that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness.
Now, Bella describes the civil religion as a genuine vehicle of national religious self-understanding. And indeed, our political language is infused with this American exceptionalism that relies on God favoring the American people and the ostensible American way of life. To the degree civil religion has a God, it's less concerned with the sermon.
Yeah, look, even in his text, faith to number, to for Trump, faith. Just to play on religion.
Concerned with the U.S. being a city on a hill, a shining beacon of prosperity and freedom. Now, in the decades since Bella's article, and as Christian leaders have sought more influence in politics, you could argue that civil religion has become more religious while Christianity has become more civil or political. In the 2000s, when the culture started shifting to the left, we saw expanded rights granted to the LGBTQ community, women's health care, and minorities. Christian leaders began to describe this as an affront to God and a symptom of America in decline. So when Trump uses rhetoric about anti-Christian bias, and Christians claim that their religious freedom is under attack, well, it's likely not their faith, but the civil expression of that faith that they see as under attack. But you know who saw all of this coming? Your friend and mine, Friedrich Nietzsche, who compares Christianity to a slave morality defined by its resentment, which is a type of resentment. In The Genealogy of Morals, Nietzsche describes a noble morality and a slave morality. And he says the slave morality is based on the idea of no. He calls no the creative deed, and goes on to say, in order to exist, slave morality always first needs a hostile external world. It needs, physiologically speaking, external stimuli in order to act at all. Its action is fundamentally reaction. Now, by asserting its own
that makes sense.
Establishes the grounds of existence, which breeds a kind of anger and resentment, and then
it's kind of basically to rile up, to create a cause that's non-existent, and to rile everyone up.
Feels that anger as a tool for power. And when you're a religion or a political party identified by what you're against, it becomes really hard to shed that vibe when you actually win. And we can see this in how the current Republican Party behaves. Like, they're the party in power, and you get scenes like this one.
You can't trust the government anymore.
Having access to personal data.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You are the government.
And of course, there's the reactions to Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance.
You are the government.
How have we made it here?
No, not this, but I was to say, she said, oh, you can't trust the government, the report, but you are the government.
Which spun conservatives into a rage because they might have power, but they're still not very cool. Political rhetoric in the U.S. has always had echoes of civil religion, but this turn towards resentment has been brewing since the civil rights movement. Now, Christian leaders like Jerry Falwell spoke out against the Civil Rights Act of 1964, claiming that it was a violation of human and private property rights. In the mid-2000s, the idea that gay marriage could become legalized or that a healthcare law may contain a mandate to cover contraceptives all became fodder for Christians to claim that their religious freedom was under threat. Because if I'm an evangelical Christian and someone uses birth control 100 miles away, my soul dies. This psychology is all exemplified in things like the God's Not Dead series of movies. If you're
that's the thing I don't understand. How does that affect them? That somebody takes birth control if you like.
The only argument I can propose is that the Bible says to be fruitful and marry, so to populate the earth. So if we have these kind of contraceptives unavailable, then what we have is the birth rate going down, and we see that the birth rate has gone down as people are more informed with sex education and having access to these mediums to prevent pregnancy. So I can see that as a perspective, like, okay, but I don't know if they think that far ahead.
I mean, yeah, sure, I get what you're saying, but then you do that. You do the.
But they want everyone to populate the earth.
Sicko like me, and you want to
at
know
least
more
if
about
you're
them?
a Christian, you should want everyone to populate the earth, family
We made videos
first
on
and
all of those
everything.
movies. You can check them out. But this all adds up to the idea that the real threat to humanity isn't climate change or, I don't know, nuclear apocalypse. It's the liberals. But how does this all explain Trump's unlikely rise to figurehead of this civil religion? Before we get into it, I need to tell you about something. Spam. Now, spam has taken over all of our lives. You know, all those constant, if you've ever been aware of, where our personal, even your brand, and time-consuming, which can remove your information from their data. Man, you contacted hundreds of calls, successful sent off their annual plans, that this resentment to keep your data secure. Now, let's get back to the show. Well, journalist Sarah Posner argues that this resentment and erosion over America's decline as a moral leader hit its apex during Barack Obama's tenure as president. She writes that, primed by conspiracy theories about Obama's place of birth, his race, and his religion, from the outset, many in the movement were ready to believe that he was poised to eviscerate their freedom and crush Christianity. Every move as president, real and imagined, was fodder for these superstitions. Now, the most potent of these conspiracy theories, that Obama was not really American, was fittingly championed by Trump. In him, the Christian right found a figure who forcefully voiced the same resentment as they did. You know, it doesn't hurt that Trump is famously resentful of anyone who doesn't agree with his views or that criticizes him publicly. His main driving force seems to be undermining or destroying anyone who personally offends him or opposes his policies or implicates him in crimes. So Christian leaders sort of found a kindred and kindredly resentful spirit in Trump. You know, when Trump talked about America in decline, Christian leaders agreed. And when Trump famously said this in his convention,
I alone can fix it.
he tapped into the Christian desire for a savior who can deliver the chosen people from their suffering. What's more, Trump becomes not just a symbol for the Christian right, but he embraces their embrace of him. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't just accept it, he loves it. But there's also another thing that's going on here, and it's a shift within Christianity itself to embrace a thing.
This church is ridiculous.
I know this church. Joel Osteen, he's very popular. He's been doing this for a long time in Texas. And what has been strange is like when it's like an election year, they really do promote heavily on politics and doing the right thing. So it's like kind of influencing the mass, what decision they should make in reflection of you attending to this church.
Look at this. This is like a stadium, like a football stadium.
Well, yeah.
It's crazy. How many, do you know the size of it?
It's huge. Just in Texas. I'm not necessarily sure.
Wow.
When there was a hurricane, people were asking him, can they use it as a place for shelter? He said no. No, absolutely not.
That's religion for you,
absolutely
huh?
not.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
Called the prosperity gospel. Now, what started out as a fringe movement has gone fully mainstream, with some studies pegging the number of Protestants who believe in this form of Christianity as high as 50%. It's even found its way into pop culture with books like The Secret. This is the belief that God wants you, yes, you, to be wealthy, prosperous, and healthy. But theologically, it holds the notion that
I remember that book
revelation
being heavily
supersedes things
promoted.
like facts and reason, and that one's authority is imbued with things like the supernatural powers to heal and even lift people out of poverty. So it's like cool if people get out of poverty if magic does it, but not if policy does it. I get it. This is why televangelists present themselves as anointed leaders who are modern day prophets and apostles. And you know who loves this whole vibe? Donald Trump. Now, Posner describes how during his first campaign, Trump struck up a friendship with the televangelist and prosperity gospel preacher Paula White. Trump found her messages of success to be appealing, and in Trump, Paula White saw the fulfillment of everything the prosperity gospel preaches.
And every demonic altar that has been erected against him will be torn down.
So in Trump, we get this weird, powerful amalgamation of different narratives of Christianity that carry echoes of civil religion, resentment, racism, and now the prosperity gospel. You know, who would have thought it would all come together like this? You know what? Trump friggin' loves it. In his embrace of Christianity and the prosperity gospel, he's become a secular version of everything the prosperity gospel believes. You know, he's rich, he demands absolute loyalty, and he promises that he alone can save us. He might have only recently proclaimed himself a king, but he's been giving off godlike vibes for a while. Posner writes that his pronouncements are not to be questioned. And
it's an interesting point he's making, that basically the people that voted for Trump see him as Jesus. Makes sense. I never thought about it like that, but there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn that he's showing here.
Followers believe he will, supernaturally or otherwise, make America great again. They believe Trump will achieve MAGA because God has anointed him to carry out this mission. He may not actually be a Christian, but God has chosen him to protect Christians and therefore America. When Christians are fed a message of constant suppression of free expression of religion, and then that gets combined with a figure who preys on the psychological persecution of those Christians, well, you get strange but oddly suitable bedfellows. That's all for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please.
Yeah, interesting video.
Can't see his comment.
He made solid points. That's a very, very good video. We can't trust the government having access to personal data. You are the government. Yeah, that's what I said. The rise of the prosperity gospel just shows how little understanding of the religion most Christians have. I'm not sure what that means. I don't have the understanding. Apparently, religious freedom actually means the freedom to impose Christian evangelism on the... Yeah, that's what they think of freedom.
Okay. Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord, and as always, share as much kindness as possible.